we'll go ahead and get started with this part of it. Everybody can see me okay? Thumbs up, okay. Go ahead and get this sheet of paper here. And I put on your sheet that you should have 2 different kinds of scissors. And if you don't, it's okay. But I have a pair that are good for cutting fabric specifically because the felt is kind of hard to cut with regular scissors. And if you have sewing scissors in your house, they'll be best for your fabric, but you should never use them for paper. So that's why I have my other set of scissors for my paper. So I'm going to use my crafting scissors, my regular scissors that are for cutting, and I'm going to go ahead and cut this out all the way around. You want to stay along the outside of this black line. Just cut that out. And if you need help, you might need to ask for help from your family member. So you're going to cut that out completely and you'll end up with something like this. And you cut around the black part of that edge. Good job, Caleb. He's already got it. Okay, Todd, where did you say to go look for the updates maybe?
Okay, it would be right there. And is there an updates? It may be okay. Let's go ahead and try it fresh and see if it may have just been cantankerous.
Ooh, I think it's gonna work. There.
Okay, everybody, thumbs up if you can see Alexis twice. From the side and from the front.
Can you see me now, both of them? Well, not both of them, but. You see me okay here? So everybody has this cutout. And Todd, the only thing is I can't see everybody's, like, for some reason, the top of my screen on my iPad doesn't have them across the top like it normally does. I don't know if that's a setting that I need to change. That's fine. I'm going to leave it like that, but I can't see their reactions. So you'll have to kind of fill me in if somebody's needing something.
No
I
problem.
can only see them on the top of my laptop.
Sure, I can do that.
Okay.
Caleb, you have a question? Caleb? Go ahead and unmute if you have a question.
I can't see her on the thing.
You can't see me on a second screen in a different chair.
You probably have to use the arrow that has the half underneath it.
So also go to view and make sure you're clicked on speaker view.
Oh yeah, that's probably it.
Found it.
You got it? Are we good to go?
Not really.
Malachi, can you see me?
Yep.
Okay. Is everybody else okay? Did Caleb get it figured out? The next thing we're going to do You don't necessarily have to see me to be able to do this part. If you're still having issues, make sure you raise your hand and wave so we know that you're having issues and we'll try to walk you through it. The next thing you need to do is stickers off of your felt. So I had one sticker on each of mine. So I'm going to take those off. And you want to lay it flat. And then you want to take your clover that you made, that you cut out, and you want to stick that on top of your green felt. And I want to put mine as far to one side as possible without it going off the edge. That way I have scrap piece over here. And then you're just going to trace it. So you should have a Sharpie or some kind of marker, even a pen would work, something, just something to trace the outline. So you just hold your paper down with one hand. And with your writing hand, you just trace along the outside.
I'm sorry to interrupt. We are switching to my husband's laptop, so it might say Jim's computer.
Okay.
Oh, I think we're on. Okay, thank you.
Yep, I just accepted you.
Okay, thanks.
And I think if you're using a Chromebook, that's why we can't see you twice.
Okay, let me get on there. I'll see if I can fix that. Thank you.
Okay, and then you'll do that. So I've got mine on here, and you're going to do that on your second piece too.
Maislin, you have a question?
Yes.
What's your question?
Could you use a fabric marker?
Absolutely. If you have a fabric marker, that will work great. I just don't have a fabric marker, so that's cool that you do. So the difference between a fabric marker and a regular marker is it actually kind of depends. Some fabric markers are specifically washable. That way, when you wash the fabric, you can get it out. And some are specifically made for fabric to where they're going to stay there so that you can use them in like artwork or something. So it kind of depends on which one you have, but that would be perfect if you have one. You can definitely use it.
I have the washable one.
Okay, that's fine. Most likely you won't be washing this, but I guess if you get it super, super dirty, you might be able to throw it into the washer. I'm not really sure how felt does being washed, to be honest with you. I would have to do a little bit of research on that to find out before telling you this is safe to put in the wash. I would imagine that you probably would just have to hand wash it or spot clean it with like a wipe, like a face wipe or a baby wipe or something, if you happen to get something on it. Okay, so I have my two clovers that are outlined. Is everybody done with this portion? Thumbs up if you're all on the same page and you're done with your tracing part. We have a thumbs down from some. Okay,
Reagan's got a question.
what's up, Reagan?
Is it gonna be a pillow?
It is. I guess I haven't shown you what we're making. This is what we're making.
Oh, that's gonna look cute.
Yeah. So it's just a little 4-H plushie. So yes, exactly that. So it's like a little pillow.
Where are we going to get the H's at to put on it?
The H's, we're gonna cut them. Not H's, but we're gonna cut strips. So the next thing We might have some that aren't quite ready to move on yet, but we'll cut these out and then we'll cut these out. So the H's come from this piece right here, and you're not going to actually cut shapes of H's. You're only going to cut strips, and I'll show you how to do that in just a second. You can begin cutting it out, and you can cut to where you are cutting away the black so that it's not on there. So I'm just starting at my stem, and I'm using my fabric scissors that are good for fabric. And I'm just going to carefully cut on the inside of that black mark and go all the way around. And it might get a little frustrating if your scissors they might get caught a little bit with this fabric. You just have to be patient with it. And remember, this is something that you can enter into the fair too, as a fair project. Fabric scissors are usually very, very sharp, so just be very, very cautious and careful of where you're keeping your fingers, keeping them away from the blade. And one of the reasons that we don't use our fabric scissors on paper, it dulls the blade. So that's why you always keep your fabric scissors separate from your paper scissors. And I'm just going to cut out my second one.
How does the fabric scissors get dulling on a thinner thinner object?
It doesn't make any sense, does that?
No, it doesn't.
That's the I'm going to have to look that up, just the scientific reasoning behind why paper dulls the blade of a fabric scissor. That it really doesn't make sense to me either, Malachi. But it's true. If you try to use your paper scissors on a on fabric, they just don't work well. And if you start using your fabric scissors for paper, it just makes them not work as well.
So while you're doing that, I used the power of Google. And paper products contain materials that are abrasive and will eventually dull a pair of razor sharp fabric scissors. Paper filling and coating contains kaolin clay, titanium oxide, calcium carbonate, and talc. These stiffen the paper, they fill it out, and adjust how the paper absorbs ink, thus dulling fabric scissors.
Way
Wait,
to
so
go,
paper isn't
Todd.
made out of wood? I thought paper was made out of wood.
It's got a lot of extra additives in it then, doesn't it?
Yeah, it sure does.
So we learned something. That's the whole point of these. We learned something new for sure. Good job. Thanks, Todd. It looks like Gatlin has a question. Gatlin, do you have a question? He's muted.
Ask again. Can we save the scrap?
Yes, definitely save your scraps. You can use this side right here. We're going to use some of these, like, I think if as long as we have some time, we're going to use these to practice our stitching. But if you can keep this side and you can cut this strip out right here later, these make fun bookmarks. You can practice stitching on them or gluing other things to them. And this would be a good bookmark for a book if you like to read.
I read almost every day.
Good. Do you enjoy reading, or do you read every day because you have to for school?
Well, I just read every day because I want to, and it's usually comic books.
Oh, cool. That's really cool.
I like really, really big ones.
Really big comic books.
hmm
Do you have a favorite character?
No, I pretty much like all of them.
Like all of them?
Yeah.
Very cool. Okay, so both of mine are cut out.
Ours is gonna take a bit slower. We don't have fabric scissors.
That's
We're
okay. Is it so? Is it proving to be kind of difficult for you?
Yeah, this is pretty much all I've gotten so far.
It
We're
is
using
hard to cut without fabric scissors. I know
I'm
that.
using cooking scissors right
You
now.
just have to be more patient with it, don't you?
What I did is I pinned them together and I cut them both out at once.
Oh, that was smart. Yes, and when you actually get into sewing and have a little bit of more sewing knowledge and background, that is definitely something that you would do to shorten your time on like a time saving tool, would be that you would lay both of your pieces of fabric out. It's a little hard to do with the felt because it's so thick and it makes, they kind of shift and sometimes your shapes won't end up the same. But if you're using a regular fabric, a cotton fabric, you would lay your pieces on one on top of the other and you would trace your outline on one. You'd pin them together just like Kylie said. I think that was Kylie that said that. And you would cut them both out at the same time so that you're just quickly getting both done at the same time and you don't have to do it twice. So that is a fantastic tip. For this particular thing, especially if you don't have fabric scissors, it's probably not a good method just because it's already thick enough and already hard enough to get it done. And I'm noticing that some of my edges aren't perfect, but it's okay. We're going to straighten them out and it'll look good. Once you've basically got both of them cut out, I know not everybody is ready yet, but once you've got them both cut out, you want to lay them one on top of the other. I have two different colors. I have a lighter green and a darker green. You should all, for the most part, have two of the same color of green. I just ran out and I just used what was left over for myself. So don't be alarmed if you realize that I have two different colors. So you just lay them flat, one on top of each other, kind of spread them out and make sure that they're pretty much the same. Every once in a while, you'll see a spot where it looks a little off and you just kind of trim it a little bit. It's not a huge deal though. We're just laying it out to make sure that we got it good and cut out. Okay, so with your white piece, we're just going to cut strips, very easy strips. So maybe about as wide as your finger. You're just going to start at the bottom or the top, whichever you want to call it. And you're going to cut a straight strip off of it, just like that. And as I'm looking at it already, it's a little wonky. I'm going to straighten it up a little bit. So I have one strip. So that's going to be one side of my H. And it looks like these might be a little bit long. So I'll put them together here in a little bit and I will trim them. But so you're just going to continue cutting those strips and I want to make them the same size. So I'm going to just lay one on top of that at the end, just so I can kind of see if I can get it to be about the same. So I'm gonna layer it just like that, put it right there on the edge. And I'm going to use it as a guide to help me cut the next strip. So now I have 2 of these. Okay, and you're just
Yeah.
gonna keep cutting the strips. And every once in a while, they might look a little funky, like they're not quite
Here's a
straight.
tip. Don't pull the fabric because that stretches the size out.
That's exactly right. This fabric is very easily stretchable, so don't pull on it too hard, because you're right, Malachi, it does, it will stretch it out. So I'm just cutting just a bunch of these little strips. You're going to need 2, 4, 6, 8 of them and 1 more. So you're going to need 9 of them all together. So far I have 3. You can kind of just go ahead and lay them on there if you want to, just to get an idea for, oh, I've done this many, I only need this many more. And you're just trying to make them about the same size, but it's okay if they're not perfectly the same width. So there's another strip.
How many strips did you say we needed again?
9.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
My strips are looking like the strips of the Adidas sign.
That's okay. And mine seem like they're probably going to be a little bit too long. So I'm going to stack up just a couple of them, probably just 2 at a time. So I'm going to stack up 2 at a time, and I'm going to trim it just a little bit, about that much off of it. You can kind of see on this camera, just about that much, about the same width as your finger again. And we may actually be able to use these instead of using that 9th strip. I'll test it out here and see just a second. Because that 9th strip was to be able to cut the middle part of your H out. But now that we're cutting off and making these a little bit shorter, I think these are actually going to be the perfect size. So basically you're laying out your white strips. You want them to come down away from, I don't know if you can see this very well. I am putting my finger at the top of my H like this, like right here. And I'm making sure to place these white strips about a finger width down, just a little bit further. Because once you start stuffing this, it's going to make that curve around a little bit, just like this. And you don't want your H's to be way too far close to the edge. I felt like I made these a little too close to the edge, so I wanted them to be down just a little bit this time. And I haven't glued these yet or anything. I'm really just kind of playing with them and eyeballing them and seeing where I want to place them. So yours should look like that. I'm just placing them on there for now. And these little pieces that we just cut off of the end of them, you'll just place those in the middle, and that will be the middle of your H. So once you get them laid out the way that you like, you can hot glue those down. And I'll walk you through that here in just a minute too.
Okay, I saw
So-
Kelby's hand go up.
Kelby,
we
do you
did-
have a question?
Did we do the other one with H's on it?
No. Well, I guess you could put them on the back if you have enough of the white. You absolutely can. If you have enough white strips and you have enough time to get them cut out, absolutely, you could do it on both sides. So now you can kind of see
Left-handed.
I've got my H's.
Do you want me to cut my H's shorter? Because they're like really long.
I did, yeah. I cut about almost a finger width off of them. Like, can you see how small that is? It's literally, it's about the width of my finger. So
Okay.
Yeah, just cut just a little bit off the end. And then that's what I used to put in the middle to make the H's. So can everybody see this okay? So I just use those to put as the middle part of my H.
Make sure you make them all.
I can't see it.
She's talking about.
So you- Yes,
Can
I
you
can't
see it now?
right?
So you just take those little pieces that you trimmed away, and that's the middle part of your H. And when you're ready, you can begin hot gluing those down. Looks like most of you have already started that process. And really, I'm just going to pick one up and I'm going to glue down the center, just a strip right down the middle. And then I'm carefully going to place it back down. Line it back up with that little middle piece, push it down with my finger. If you feel like it's getting too warm, that's what this is for, this wooden stick that I included. If you feel like it's too warm, you can use it to push down instead of your finger so that it's not coming through the fabric and being too warm or burning your finger. So now I'm just picking up my little piece and I'm putting a little bit of glue on the back of that and gluing it down. And for me, it's not too hot. It's not coming through my fabric, but for some of you, you might have a hotter glue gun setting or something, and it might come through and be warm. So just kind of gauge that and figure that out. And if you need to use the wooden stick, you can definitely use that wooden stick. That's what it's there for. So I've got one done. Good. Those are fun. I'm so excited. I have to scroll through on my laptop to see you guys. Oh, Caleb, that looks good. Great job. Oh, Gracias are having a hand clapping party. They're good at passing the time. Morgan, nice job. And Reagan, good job. Very nice. Okay. I just finished putting all of my H's on. They're all glued down. I've got my green on top of my green, both of my clovers on top of each other. The tails are facing the right way. I am ready to start hot gluing my edges together so that we can start stuffing it and do our stitching around the edge. So I'm going to give you a couple of just insider info if you do decide to work ahead. You want to put your hot glue around these edges as close to that edge as possible, because when we're doing our stitching, it's going to be a little bit hard underneath here. You can see, I have it upside down again. It'll be hard where the glue is right underneath the stitching. So your needle's going to have to go under the glue line. So if you get hot glue all the way down in here, then you're going to have all of this lip and no stuffing in there. So you want to try to get your hot glue along this edge as in between the two pieces, as close to that edge as possible without it spilling out. Another thing is that you're going to start on basically, this time I'm allowed to hold it upside down. You want to start hot gluing from basically this edge all the way around and leave it open from the whole stem. So really kind of on the angle, you really want to leave about this much open, like about an inch on each side. So here's the stem, and you want to leave about this much unglued so that you can stick your fingers in there a little bit and move it around. And so you can maybe stick that wooden stick in there if you need to. So when you start gluing, you'll maybe start gluing from here all the way around and then stop like right here. So you've got all this open space right here.
Can we start it? Yeah.
If you feel ready, I'm gonna go ahead and do a little bit with you. So that we're starting on the same spot. Just a quick show of hands. Raise your hand if you're not quite ready to move on so we can kind of get a number count. Todd, take a quick look and see how many are not ready to move on yet.
I see 2 hands.
2 hands that are not ready to move on yet.
3 hands, but 2 of them are in the same room.
Okay, all right, that makes sense. Okay, so yes, let's go ahead. We're gonna go ahead and start just a little bit. And like I said, for the stem, we want to leave like from here to here open. So we don't want to put any glue anywhere on this stem yet. We're just gonna put it around the edge, and you have to lay it down flat, make sure all of your edges are covered. I can see my underside peeking out, so I need to adjust mine a little bit. And I'm gonna lift open one of, can you guys kind of see what I'm doing? Lift up one of my leaves. And I'm not gonna take it all the way next to the stem because I wanna give myself some room. So I'm gonna start it kind of like maybe right here next to the middle of this H. Not in the middle of the leaf, but at the edge, the very edge of the leaf. So I'm getting it just on that edge, almost to where it wants to spill over. And then I want to push it down. And some of it might spill out and get on your fingers. If it's too hot, you might need to, just like Malachi said, run to the sink and run some cold water over it. Just be very cautious. And then I'm going to lift up my leaf again and get the areas that I didn't get yet. Go around as close to that edge as possible. I'm going to use my wooden stick this time to just help push that down. Okay, so I'm on the second leaf and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to work my glue gun right around that edge and just be very careful. And you really can't do too much. You have to go ahead and set it down and let it dry. If you keep going around, the glue that's over here will have already dried and be hard. You have to do just a little bit at a time, push it down, a little bit at a time, push it down, and keep going around. Because if you do too much at a time, like I said, it'll harden and it won't stick to the fabric. So now you should have an opening about like that. So you've got your tail opening and just a little bit of this curved part of the leaf open too. I actually can fit my whole hand in it. You don't have to. When I made mine earlier, I couldn't fit my whole hand in there, but I've got a pretty decent sized opening. And I'm checking my edges. So far, I don't have any holes.
I see a lot of mirror images of what you just showed, so everybody's on the same page.
Good, yay, good job, guys. So if you're ready to the stuffing stage, you're just gonna take this, and I would not recommend putting it in just like this. You wanna kind of pull it apart a little bit. So you want it to be in big fluffy sections. You don't need to take little tiny pieces, but pieces about the size of your hand or just a little bit smaller. This is a big piece, but that will stuff really well. We just don't want it to be these big straight pieces because we want it to be a little extra fluffy. So you just pull it apart, kind of like you would cotton candy. It kind of looks and feels like cotton candy. It does not taste like cotton candy. Don't try it. It will taste awful. So you just want to make pieces like this, like little clouds. And then you just start stuffing it. Okay. And you want to stuff it in the ones that are farthest away from the stem first. So the ones at the top. And you want to stuff it into the corners first. So like I'm stuffing it right now into this area right here. This area right here where the curve is. And then I'm going to do the other side. So I'm going in the stem area. I'm going to push it up through here. I'm trying to get it to this little corner here. And I'm just going to push in there. And if your hand doesn't fit all the way in, that is completely fine. That's another reason you have this stick, is you can stick it in there and you can move your stuffing around to where you want it and poke it in its place where it should go. And now, so I feel like I've got that one pretty good and stuffed, this edge right here. So now I'm going to go move to the other side and do this other top leaf. This one's pretty flat, so I'm going to start stuffing it. So right now, this is what mine looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use my hot glue gun and I'm going to glue this edge up to the stem and stop, and do this other side glue to the stem and stop. And then I'm going to roll up a little bit of stuffing and put it inside my stem. And then I'm going to do some more hot gluing. So right now I'm going to hot glue to my stem and not get the stem just yet. So I'm going to push my stuffing in kind of away from my edge. And I'm actually going to glue it this time instead of flat on the table. I'm going to glue it while holding it up like it's a pocket, like a pita pocket. That's what it's making me think of as a pita. If you've ever eaten a pita bread filled with some yummy sandwich type things or something, or chicken salad, I'm going to hold it like this. Is it easier to see? Let's see, this way. So hard to do it so close. So I'm going to hold it up like this and I'm going to glue the edge and I'm going to pinch it together as I go. So I'm going to glue just a little bit more on just the edge and I'm going to pinch it. And I have to move my stuffing away from the edge while I do it too. So you might need a buddy or a family member or someone to help if this gets a little too complicated. But I think you can do it. So I just glued it and now I'm pinching it to hold it till it dries. So I've got that edge done now. So now you can see that I've done it all the way to my stem. And now I get to do the other side. So I'm going to push my stuffing in. I'm going to hot glue just the edge, really close to the edge, and I'm going to pinch it closed. And move my stem out of the way. Do just a little bit more and pinch it closed. So now all I have is just this little opening near the stem. It kind of reminds me of the end of the balloon. And I'm just going to take just a little bit, about that size, and I'm going to roll it up. Roll it like that, just into like a little tight piece. And I'm going to stick that right here in the end. And then glue the ends of my stem together. And just be very careful. And hopefully we won't have very many more burns. Just be cautious. And you might, the best way actually, I'm going to kind of redo that part. I'm going to take this piece back away and I'm going to do one side of my stem. So I did just this edge right here, and I'm going to pinch that closed. And that way it has a space to lay, because right now it's just wanting to flop out of every side. So I'll show you, let me close this up and show you what I did again. Okay, so now my stem looks like this, where it's done on one side and open on the other. So I've sewn, or not sewn, I glued one side so that I have a little kind of a taco opening, I guess. So now I can take this piece that I rolled up and just lay it right in that crease. And then that'll make it easier for me to be able to hot glue shut. So now I can glue this top edge right here and then do the other side, and that'll be much easier. Sometimes we learn things as we go. So sometimes I'm learning to teach you how to do it. As I do it, I'm learning, oh, this is a little harder than I thought. I'm going to have to explain this differently. So sometimes I'm learning while I'm teaching you. And you guys teach me when you ask me questions. I have to think about things differently and explain them differently.
I'm done.
I'm done. That's a good thing to hear. Was that Maislin?
Yes.
Yes. Can you show it to me?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, did you already put that button on?
No.
Okay.
Malachi, you have a question?
For the tail, is there any tips on that? I'm just not getting to that.
That's okay. So the best tip that I had for it is, let me get a good, let's see, good angle.
Where's Tammy?
So I did this bottom part, so it's kind of at a curve, Malachi. This part that's a little more straight.
Showing the background, or
The one with the background, yeah.
okay.
So that one, if you glue this bottom part first, then you can roll up a piece of the stuffing and put it right there. And then you can glue this part and then this part. That's what I just finished doing.
Okay.
That was the easiest way for me. And as you go and as you do this, you may come up with something that worked better and easier for you. So if you did something that was easier and made more sense to you, we would love for you to share your tips and tricks and ideas, because we all learn from each other. So when you share those tips and tricks, it helps us share those ideas so that others can try them too. And your the sewing part, if you're not interested in doing it at this point, you're welcome to be done. If you want to hot glue your button on, you can do that. But if you do want to continue on with the sewing part of it, then definitely stay on the Zoom. So first we need to, we're gonna cut our piece of thread. So you got your thread, you can keep these little pieces on it. Mine just happened to fall off, but you can keep these little pieces on it that were around it.
What pieces?
Malachi, did you have something?
What pieces were you talking about?
These pieces that came on it, these are around the.
Oh, if you guys have the thimble pieces for the fingers, use those.
Oh,
It
yeah.
will help a lot.
So I'm just
If
gonna
you don't have
take,
that, just use the cloth around you.
I'm gonna unravel maybe about 6 times. So I'm gonna pull it 1 time, which I already pulled it twice. So that's, whoops, mine's coming apart because I left those things off of it.
Mine's in
So-
a gigantic knot.
No, don't let it be in a knot.
What's this up, brushy?
So I'm gonna stretch out my arm and I'm gonna make it the size of my arm. How about that? Okay, so make it the size of your arm 2 times. And then trim it. So I've got it doubled up. There's 2 pieces. I'm gonna make it the size of my arm. So I've got it hooked onto my thumb and it's long.
Do my mom do it twice or just once?
She can do it twice.
Twice.
Is it okay if it's longer than your arm?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm just trying to give a general around about how big.
Now put a knot in it.
Now put a knot in it.
Nope, first we're going to thread it. So you have to lick it, like that. And
We
I always
already
use
did
it.
that.
Okay, but not everybody has yet, so be patient. So you lick it,
Have to be.
and then you get it really, really squeezed with your fingers to make it flat. So I don't know if you can see. And then once it's flat, you're going to push it through like that. I don't know if you can see it very well.
Our threads aren't very, they're not small enough.
They will be if you make it. If you take the string and you lick it, yeah, just like that.
Yeah, you have to lick it and you have to squish it till it looks flat.
Mm-hmm.
And then you want your ends. You remember we've got one, we already threaded it, so it's already on our needle. And we want to take our two tails,
Can you start me out?
these two pieces, whoops, and we want them to meet and be the same length. You want to take your thread and put your pointer finger behind it. And you want to grip it with your thumb, and you're just wrapping one time to where you make an X, like that. And then use your thumb and your finger to pinch it and roll it. And then pull it, and you'll have a knot. It might not be pretty, but it's a knot. Okay. So we have a knot in there. Okay, we're gonna go ahead and move on. You should be able to see the back of mine as well as kind of the front of mine. So that's why we have two camera angles this time. Trying to get it to where you can see, whoops, both. Okay, so I'm gonna start at the back of mine. I've got my knot in the end, and I'm gonna start right here. I'm sorry, right here by my stem. And I'm going to put my needle in the very back. Let's see the angle. I'm going to put it in this corner, and it's going to have to go underneath that glue edge because, like Malachi said, it's kind of thick there. So I've come up right here. You can kind of see my needle is right here, and it's hard to tell on camera because
I forgot to tell you guys, like something I just remembered because of this. When you're sewing, make sure that the needle, the thread that you're pulling out of the needle, make sure it's not caught from what's pulling to tighten, because then it will loop over.
yes, you have to be
Just
cautious with that.
Pull your drill back through under it.
Mm-hmm.
You
So-
keep cutting out and I can't, it's blurry too.
Mine is blurry.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not quite sure how to fix that. Are you looking at this screen right here in the front with the H's or the one in the back?
The back.
The back, okay. Look at the one, look at this one, the one with the H's. Maybe that will help a little bit.
Okay.
So I've already gone through the back side I came in from this way with my needle and I have pulled it all the way through. So now my thread is right here by the stem. And now I'm going to go on the back side again. So I have my thread like this. And I'm just going to take my needle around the back side and come back through the front again. And you're just going to, basically, you're just going around in a circle. Let's see, gallery view. Okay, so I left several inches here, maybe 5-6 inches. I do want to have a little bit of a tail, some space when I make my knots, so that if I don't, then it's going to end up being too tight and I won't have enough space to make my knots. So I'm going to, I've pulled it through on, I'm going to say this is my last stitch. I've made it this far. So I'm going to come back around the back like I have been this whole time, but instead I'm going to pull it through here, this last stitch in the very back, like that. I just went right through that stitch. And then there's this loop that I left right here. It's still open. I'm going to push it through that loop and it's going to create a knot right here in the very back. And you're just going to hold on tight, pinch it, and then pull it tight. And you're going to just do the same thing again. So, whoops, my needle goes through here. And you're going to see this loop right here. Trying to open it up so you can see it a little bit better. So this loop right here, it keeps twisting. And I'm going to push my needle back through that loop and it creates that knot for me in the very back. Okay, so now that I've got the 2 knots in the very back, now I'm going to take my needle right next to this knot, right underneath it, and I'm going to push it through into my stuffing. I'm going to push it right back out. So I push my needle in right here, pushed it through to come out right here, and I'm going to pull it and I'm going to trim it. So I've pulled it through. It's just sticking out in the back somewhere, and I trim it. And then since I pulled it tight, now it's hidden in there somewhere. It went away. It's like stuck in here. And so now that's finished. And now you know how to begin again. You would just thread your needle. You would knot it again. And then you would start in the back next to this knot right here. You'll just move over just a little bit and you'll pull it through the front and it'll begin right here like you just right where you left off, and you'll just keep on going. And then as far as putting your button on, you can sew that on. You'll just thread your needle and you start it at the back and you push it through the holes in the button. If you prefer, you can hot glue it on. That's up to you. But I'm going to go ahead and end there.